Please remember I'm not a financial advisor and I have a bias towards the XX network. There's a very real danger that the financial regulation will become a wolf in sheep's clothing. Dawn Fitzpatrick is the CEO of the Soros Fund. She's George Soros' henchwoman. If you're unfamiliar with George, he broke the Bank of England by taking out massive shorts on the sterling and spreading rumors about a default. An entire country's wealth went from the government's pocket into George's pocket. He's also very active in U.S. political campaigns. When I call him a bankster, that's a nice word to describe him. Dawn is an advisor for the Federal Reserve of New York. She's also an advisor for the Bretton Woods Committee and manages a lot of wealth. Listen closely to what she has to say about crypto.
But like there are just long held and simple norms about how you treat customer assets, for example. And what I think crypto is here to stay. I think what's happened is clearly a setback. But right now, I actually think it's a huge opportunity for the incumbent financial firms to actually take the lead.
The ones that are already regulated and run, for example, regulated exchanges.
Yeah, and know how to segregate client assets and yeah. So I think that is what's going to happen. On kind of
Wouldn't that be ironic, though, given the disruption that crypto promised?
Yeah, there is some irony to it, and I'm yeah, it is ironic, but I think that is going to be the evolution.
According to Dawn, this SEC assault is a huge opportunity for the incumbents. When she says incumbent, she means the big banks. Notice that she gives Gary Gensler's argument almost verbatim. Exchanges are commingling funds and there's a need to segregate client assets. Well, the legacy banks, the incumbents, are already equipped to handle such tasks. There's a reason Gensler did a 180 from teaching blockchain at MIT to parroting the incumbents. This downturn in crypto is for them to make their move, to cause destruction and swoop in. They control the SEC. She laughs at the idea of an ironic outcome. They love inversions. Down with the banks. The freedom of decentralization is now going to merge with the centralized powers that be. The Soros Fund is also an investor in Cowen and POLYSIGN.
And so there's parallels here to the FTX fraud and manipulation that we saw and we allege against Sam Bankman-Fried, where he had a sister organization, Alameda, and the special arrangements with that trading platform, FTX. You see platform after platform that the entrepreneurs behind the platform also are trying to build wealth for themselves and their investors through sister organizations, hedge funds, trading against the customers, or even as it relates to where there might not be a sister organization, that they're dealing against their customers.
The U.S. markets are vast. Most of the wealth in the world is in U.S. markets. The SEC and other regulators will argue that it's because of the rule of law. It's really about the military might and the petrodollar system. But I digress. Gensler and Dawn want all crypto to fall under the SEC. Think about when you use a stock exchange. Everything is monitored. They're very strict. They control the on and off ramps, and more importantly, taxes. It came out that Gary Gensler actually applied to be an advisor for Binance. There's a reason why these officials have pivoted their careers towards blockchain. Now, Gary Gensler became SEC chair and sued Binance, but this is all because everybody wants a piece of the pie.
And I think what I've said as an institutional investor now is it's time to lay down the olive branches. It's clear now that the CEO of Coinbase, which has lost 70% of its market cap since the IPO, Gensler is razor clear about what he wants. He's basically saying, let's just take one asset that everybody knows. He's calling Bitcoin a security. He wants to regulate where you trade it like a broker-dealer exchange. And he has no flexibility. Now, one of two things should happen. If you're a shareholder or a board member of Coinbase, I'd swap leadership. I'd get a new person to run it and go back into the staff and say, we got to work this out.
Kevin O'Leary, yet another well-connected guy, singing the same tune as Gary and Dawn. Let's capitulate to the SEC. Let's label everything a security. If the U.S. labels crypto as a security, They will control all of the capital that comes into the crypto world. The vast amount of wealth in the world is in dollar markets already. If you want access to the floodgates, the SEC is going to oversee everything.
Because the whole industry's been stymied for 3 years. We'll never get capital appreciation until an institution can invest. I've talked to sovereign wealth. I've talked to institutions in the last 48 hours. You know what they've said? This makes this asset class radioactive waste.
Yeah,
We are not going to touch this until this thing's resolved. So here's a company that could resolve it. They claim they're the leaders. Well, if the leader of that company, and I'm not pulling any punches. If he was working for me, I'd fire him. I'd get somebody else.
You're talking about the head of Coinbase.
Yes, it's over. It's so over, it's almost getting boring. Gensler has told him countless times, no, 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 and no. And everybody hears it except him. So maybe what you do, and you thank him for his great work as a pioneer.
You're supposed to do that if you want something done in Washington.
Well, you take him out behind the barn and you make the swap. You get a new CEO at Coinbase to go back in there and say, let's make a deal. Because look at it this way. If you could walk in right now and say, okay, Gensler, you win. Let's regulate this. Let's call it a security. You get $1 trillion worth of assets for an allocation of just 3% in sovereign wealth. You could open the spigots. You could really make this industry take off and own it domestically. But read the tea leaves, read the room, listen, read Gensler's lips. The answer is no, no, no. And you got to listen to that. You can't beat him.
So until that happens, where is a much easier win for yield for investors who are watching?
If you read some of Kevin O'Leary's tweets, he's a complete narcissist. All he cares about is money and greed. That's it. That's what it's at his heart. He wants everything to fall under the SEC's jurisdiction. Kevin O'Leary, Gary Gensler, Don Fitzpatrick, they're all in the same circles. They all know what's going on. They have a plan for crypto. They want it to all fall underneath the SEC and protect dollar hegemony. If everything falls under the SEC, those assets will be in dollar markets, dollar equity markets, dollar every market, and they'll have complete oversight of that. The problem with this, if you're saying, oh, well, I want my bags to pump anyway, just let them do it. Problem with this is innovation dies out at that point. You're unable to participate in decentralized networks. You're unable to do a lot of things. There's barriers that put up because it's a registered security.
Is what's going to happen on kind of
Wouldn't that be ironic, though, given the disruption that crypto promised?
Yeah, there is some irony to it, and I'm yeah. It is ironic, but I think that is going to be the evolution.
The very essence of decentralization is being eroded, with banks taking control and selecting preferred protocols. This shift effectively hands over the power to dictate which assets are considered useful or irrelevant in the market. In short, this move places the bankster in charge as the gatekeepers, thus undermining what crypto has always stood for. Money for the people, by the people.
Really interesting, David, about the assets that the SEC chose to accuse, at least in our case. They didn't charge XRP historically. They didn't charge XRP in the Binance complaint. Binance has, at least as I understand it, has listed XRP for some time as well. So it's really, really challenging, I'll pick my words carefully, to understand the rationale that the SEC is relying upon, which to my mind suggests it's really, really challenging to understand why the leadership of the SEC is so confident in this legal analysis across a whole range of these issues.
The things that we've seen with Ripple is unheard of. The IMF connections, the money center banks like Bank of America, the integration with payment integrators. All of this is unheard of in the crypto industry. Ripple has partnered with these banks. This lawsuit was necessary to force clarity, and clarity is just around the corner. I'm very proud to announce I've been elected to the XX Council. Proxy is a new application that utilizes the XX network. There have been various reports of wallets collecting IP addresses and linking it to wallet addresses. That removes the pseudonymous nature of crypto and makes it completely transparent. Your security is only good as your privacy. I've met people that have really lucked out in crypto and are now wealthy. You need to think about that. If you have wealth and someone knows it, it opens the door for hackers as well as criminals. When you use proxy, your data is sent over CMIX, which mixes and strips all metadata. Try it out at proxy.xx.network.
Joining us now, Jay Clayton, former SEC chairman, a CNBC contributor. He's currently a senior policy advisor at Sullivan & Cromwell, a law firm that represents Coinbase, and is an advisor at One River, a digital asset management firm recently acquired by Coinbase.
Sullivan & Cromwell has a long history of playing both sides. During World War II, they represented companies that did horrible things and brought those industry giants back into the fold, even after the fact. Today, they're active in the crypto world. Jay Clayton, the former SEC official, is now advising Sullivan & Cromwell, which represents Coinbase.
That what I would say is crypto entrepreneurs have tried to classify what are clearly securities in their view as non-securities. And the soundbite was about basically skipping over the admittedly costly, but what I would say is proven to be effective securities laws around issuance and trading. So it's pretty clear that Chair Gensler believes that that definition of securities, and I was of the same view when I was at the SEC, is fairly broad, and that he believes that particularly issuers of these securities and the trading firms that support them have taken advantage of what I would say is non-regulation in order to distribute securities. I think that there are a lot of other people who are very experienced in securities laws who think that the chair's view is too broad.
Yeah.
But what we have here are two different lawsuits. I would say the Coinbase situation is much more about what is a security and what is not, as opposed to the Binance situation, which is really about charges of fraud, commingling of funds, and efforts to evade.
Clayton, another well-connected player, is highlighting the commingling of funds. Just like Gensler, O'Leary, and Fitzpatrick, Binance might be guilty of what FTX did. We don't know. The internal communications state that BNB can go to zero. That's what brought FTX down. By leveraging an exchange token, their balance sheet was built on a house of cards. Now the U.S. is applying stress to Binance. They're purposely trying to make the house of cards fall. The U.S. versus the rest of the world in innovation. This is the key topic. Binance is a global exchange. Binance US has lost their banking license. US is creating an environment where it all can fall down. Who wins from that? The US and the SEC.
And the other unusual thing is that they ask for all kinds of temporary and preliminary injunctive relief. So this is basically when you go to court and say, you have to let us act immediately to seize or shut something down or freeze assets because there's imminent danger that customer funds will be lost.
The US SEC is purposely causing a bank run in the crypto world, but it's for Binance. They're purposely trying to implode the house of cards. Think about that. They're intentionally trying to cause havoc in the crypto market. Don Fitzpatrick said they're waiting on the sidelines. They see opportunity. They're looking to scoop this up.
Huge opportunity for the incumbent financial firms to actually take the lead.
I would say this, it may be the largest exchange because we allege that they had corrupted their trading volumes by a lack of risk controls about their affiliates, Signet Chain and Wash Trading. But moving on to your question, there are challenges of custody throughout this space. And secondly, there's a business model that bundles and commingles functions that we don't see, nor would we allow elsewhere in finance.
Gary Gensler was a senior advisor to MIT Labs. At the time that he was an advisor, they incubated and endorsed a $45 million ICO that ended up going to pretty much nothing. MIT Labs had a collection of lectures by Gary Gensler. Number 18 has been scrubbed up the internet.
We continue to wait for this forthcoming report from the Biden administration to provide the committee with pro-innovation recommendations. Unfortunately, the report is now far beyond the statutory deadline, as well as the requested extension we allowed. As with any new technology, we must move quickly. While the U.S. led in the creation of the internet, we could easily fall behind with Web 3, the next generation of the internet. According to public filing data, less than 40% of blockchain companies are headquartered in the United States, and that number continues to decline. As we saw with Huawei and 5G, when we don't lead, our adversaries fill the void. It is critical that America leads, especially given the implications of these new technologies.
The president gave an executive order for all regulators to look into crypto assets and try to figure out regulations for them. What if key players made policy behind closed doors? If they figured out how we were going to move forward, and by moving forward, they classify everything under the SEC, eliminating markets globally. You heard Don Fitzpatrick, you heard Kevin O'Leary. They obviously know more than us. Something's brewing, and they're ready to act. They're on the sideline. If you make 10,000 regulations, you destroy all respect for the law. Thanks everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this, please consider joining my Patreon or my ghost site, dmjr.ghost.io. Thanks everyone.